Well, guys, it's about that time. MLB The Show 24 is just a few days away, and my last video before the launch of the new game is always a year in review on Diamond Dynasty. I go through the game, I talk about my positives, my negatives, and kind of give my overall opinions of the year as a whole. And today, that's exactly what we're gonna do with MLB The Show 23's Diamond Dynasty. Just to be clear, there's no gameplay in this video. I am just talking, I'm just having a discussion, giving my opinions on the content. If you want to see some gameplay, I just posted my final game of MLB 23. That's the video right before this one, so go check that out if that's what you're looking for. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get it started. So I normally do these videos where I talk about my positives first and then my negatives. But with MLB 23, I don't really think I can do it that way because there are definitely some positives with the mode this year that I have, but realistically, my negatives all come at like a foundational design level for the mode this year. So any positive I have just kind of automatically falls under like a negative umbrella. Like, hopefully you'll kind of get what I mean as I get going into this. But let's start it off with the biggest thing, the change in the content model. MLB 23 introduced this new sets and seasons content model where it broke down Diamond Dynasty into 6 different seasons, and each season had its own set of cards that were released. And depending on what season you were in, there were certain sets of cards that were eligible to be used in that season. And the idea behind this content model is they wanted you to rotate your lineups throughout the year. They wanted you to change your team with the restrictions of any season. But with this new content model, another thing they did was they made it so that 99 overall cards could be available day one. And I'm not just talking about collections. I'm talking about literally any card that's released could be a 99. I'm talking headliners, I'm talking program rewards, I'm talking anything. And this is obviously a drastic change for the mode because every other sports game has a power creep where you start with the lower overall cards, and by the end of the year you have your 99 overall god squad, the best cards in the game. MLB The Show basically just went straight to that end game right away, and I think that was one of the biggest mistakes they made. Because if you think about it, you start off the year, you build your initial team, and once you get to that 97 to 99 overall team, anything you do from that point on is basically a lateral move. You're taking 199 and replacing it with another. It never feels like you're actually making your team that much better. Maybe there's marginal differences between the 99s you're rotating in and out, but you're not starting from nothing and building your team up to the best it can be. Your team is already the best it can be, and now you're just kind of giving it like a facelift every season. I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem because there's no element of team building. There's no like feeling of working to get better if we already have all the best stuff right away. And I want to be fair here because season 1 came out and a lot of people, including myself, actually had a lot of fun with it. One of the reasons for that in season 1 is we had all the World Baseball Classic content. The WBC was a great event. There was a lot of hype for it. MLB The Show had never implemented World Baseball Classic content before. And the fact that we got the WBC content with 99s off the rip, like a 99 Ohtani off the rip, there was a 99 Mike Trout, like, it was a really weird change, but it made the game kind of fun off the rip. I think a lot of us were like a little cautious with the excitement level, of course, but overall, like, it seemed like the major consensus on season 1 was pretty positive. And then season 2 came out and they introduced the new card series like the kaiju cards and the incognito cards, which actually were my favorite new card series in the entire game. We got a new set of collections, which were really good. And it kind of felt like it was almost like another launch of the game 8 weeks in. And we had a whole new set of team affinity stuff to grind, but all the team affinity cards are 97s. And everybody's thinking, well, okay, I'm grinding out all this new content to get cards that are weaker than the cards that I already have, and the cards that I already have are still eligible to be used in this season. Started to feel like you were grinding to get these 97s just to kind of keep up with the content and the collections, rather than grinding because you wanted to get these cards. And that mentality really started to kind of snowball throughout the year because it was the same in basically every season after that. And people got really sour on this content model really fast. Now, I myself wanted to give SDS the benefit of the doubt. I made it very clear before the game even had come out that I respected that SDS was trying this new content model. I wanted to give it a fair shot, and I wanted to give it a few seasons to see how it would develop and see how they would respond to some of the feedback they were getting. And in my opinion, by the end of season 3, they had not responded to the feedback well enough or fast enough to really make a change in people's opinions. And that led to season 4, which I think was the worst season of the year by far. Your set 2 cards went away and you ended up grinding for set 4 cards that you basically already had in set 2. I think the snapshot card is probably maybe the weakest card art they've ever done. Season 4 is when I really started to kind of be like, okay, I like that they tried something, but for me, this does not work. And my biggest problems became more and more apparent. I hated that there was no power creep. I want to build my team throughout the year and feel like every content drop has the potential to make my team better. But I also don't want my inventory to be limited. I don't like the fact that I'll grind for 2 hours to get a card, but then in 2.5 months, I can't use that card anymore. And I either have to use my wild card, which you only get one of, which kind of sucks when you have an entire set of cards that are ineligible when you're in a different season. And also there's only one online 9-inning mode. BR is 3 innings. You could use whatever cards there. Events, sometimes you can use all the cards, sometimes you can't, but those are mainly 3 innings, sometimes 6. The only 9-inning mode you have is ranked seasons, and that's the mode where you restrict the inventory. I did not like that at all. I think if you're gonna do this type of content model, you gotta have a separate 9-inning mode where you can just use whoever. And I've heard from some people that are more casual players to the game that they like the sets and seasons content model because their argument is they can get on at any point throughout the year, put in a couple hours of grinding, and have a pretty strong team. But like, in my opinion, I hear that and I'm like, okay, well, like if you get on and you grind for a couple hours and you only have a few hours, maybe a week, every few weeks to play, and you use those few hours to grind for a card, but then in 2 or 3 months, you can't use that card anymore, and then you have to start the grind all over. It's like, at what point are you actually playing the game as opposed to grinding? I just don't love this system. And that's why I say it's hard for me to differentiate between the positives and negatives of the mode this year for me, is because any positives I have are just part of this negative feeling towards this content model. So it's hard for me to differentiate. So like, for example, one of the things that I thought was a really cool addition this year was the captains. I thought this is a cool feature. It has a lot of potential. I think they actually missed out on doing a lot of fun things with it, but captains also kind of don't really work with the sets and seasons model, because you have a captain and then you want to use that captain, but then a lot of the cards that you want to use are now not eligible for that season. So it's like, why do I even use this captain if I can't use most of the cards that I want to use? Or even worse, let's take this Felix Bautista card that came out in season 4. He's a captain card for the Orioles pitching staff, but then in season 5 we get the finest Felix Bautista, but the captain for season 5 is a hitter captain. So if you want to use a pitching captain, you have to use Felix Bautista, but then you can't use the finest. It's like there's so many pieces of the game that are actively like working against each other. But in general, I do think captains are cool. I do think there's a lot of potential with this feature, and I hope they kind of fine-tune it for MLB 24. I will say though, the Cal Ripken boost and the Jimmy Rollins boost, I'm fine with those boosts, but you should be using that Cal Ripken Jr. for most of the game. You shouldn't be able to pinch hit with him right away and still keep the boost. But another big issue with the game this year, in my opinion, was just all the duplicate 99 overall players, and some of them ended up being worse than cards that had already come out, but you were forced to use the worst one because the old one was ineligible for the season. Like, a good example of this is the Great Race of 98. I thought this was a really cool program. I loved the card art. You know, the Mark McGwire card at the end was obviously really cool, new legend to the game, but this Sammy Sosa card was significantly worse than the core card that came out on day 1. But if they make the card better, then it's like, what's the point of doing the collections if they make the card worse, it's like, what's the point of doing the program? The duplicate 99s really, I think, hurt the game this year as well. And if something happens where like a player wins player of the month and then wins World Series MVP, sure, like a 99 for both of those I think is fine, because you can't really avoid that. Now, not everything was bad. I think the way they did monthly awards this year was really good. I think these programs, at least towards the later part of the year, were pretty player friendly, because they let you earn progress in the program in many different ways, as opposed to just the standard like offline grind. And then you had really cool programs like the Great Egg Hunt, where you had to basically play different parts of Diamond Dynasty in order to get these hidden vouchers, which was a really nice change of pace, because up until this point, or at least even after this point, every program was do the moments, do the missions, do the conquest, and get the parallel XP done as you're doing the conquest, and shit like that. The offline grind in this game was monotonous, and this was at least like a cool thing to differentiate that. But then they tried to do it again with the trick and treat programs, which I don't even know if I want to talk about these again, because it still doesn't. Moving on. Now, there is one more kind of big negative that I do have to touch on. I have to talk about this, even though I know I've talked about it many times before. But that was the change to the Battle Royale program this year, and making the card at 100 points non-sellable. For those of you that don't know, the Battle Royale program was introduced in MLB 21, and it gave people a way to earn the flawless cards without having to go 12-0, because going 12-0 is one of the most difficult things to do, if not the most difficult thing to do in this entire game. So giving a lot of casual players an avenue to earn that card was a really nice thing. I understand that flawless rewards should be valuable and they should hold a good amount of price on the market, but I think they always did, even with the Battle Royale program. But this year, MLB 23 took that Battle Royale program and they made the card at 100 points non-sellable. This is obviously the forever program. These ones are sellable, but just pretend this as a non-sell thing on the top of it. So now, going 12-0 is ridiculously hard to do for any casual player. Most people don't go 12-0. Maybe they get it one time, but for a majority of players, a majority of the time, they're not going 12-0. Now, not only is it hard to go 12-0, but they can't even sell the card that they get from the 100-point pack after they put in 100 points of the program. This kills any desire a casual player has to play Battle Royale. If the 3 flawless rewards either don't interest you or don't fit the team that you're trying to build, and you can't sell the card, what's the point of playing the mode if you already know you're probably not going 12-0? When the card is sellable, you still have to put in 100 points. You still have to play. It's not like you play the mode and you get the card after 5 games. You have to put in 100 points, which for a lot of people does take a long time. But making the card non-sellable kills the momentum for that. It's just not a good change. I really hope they go back to sellable in MLB 24, because you also mix that with the fact that most of the offline grinding you're doing is for 97 overall cards. So you have the good rewards either being 99 cards in Battle Royale that you can't sell if you earn from playing the mode, while the other good 99 overall cards are either collection rewards or even worse, in chase packs. It is not a healthy player environment. It's just not. By the way, I do want to say, I want to make it clear that I actually think having good cards in chase packs is a good thing, but not when it's one of the only ways to get good cards, if that makes sense. I think there needs to be value in chase packs, but I also think there needs to be some balance, and I don't think the balance was here. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with MLB 23. Trying to think if there's any other big positives that I want to talk about. I think some of the card art was cool. Like I said, the incognito card art was my favorite of the year. I thought the finest card art this year was pretty solid. I thought Extreme was a good thing to bring back. That was a fun time. All-Star. Okay, here's one thing that I think is a true positive. Draft content. This was something that they had never done before. I didn't think it was something we would ever see in the game, but we got MLB draft cards. This was great, and what really was nice is that Paul Skeens ended up probably being my favorite pitcher in the entire game. So this was actually one of the true, like, major positives without really any negatives attached to it. Even though it's part of the content model, I think this was a great addition. So you know what, I'm gonna end the video there. I'm gonna end it on a positive note. Overall, didn't love Diamond Dynasty this year. I think there's a lot of ideas that just ended up clashing with each other. Don't think a lot of these systems were really fully thought out, because in execution it just didn't really work for me. I would love to know how you guys feel about the game this year. Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? What was your overall thoughts on MLB 23? If I had to rate the game this year, it would probably be maybe like a 4 to 4.5. Not a great rating from me. Would have loved to have been higher, but that's just where I am on it, man. And I'm hoping that MLB 24 will be better. So I do want to say thank you guys for all the support on the content this year. Even if the game wasn't your cup of tea, like it wasn't for me, I appreciate you guys watching the video, supporting the content, supporting me as a content creator. And I'm really excited to get back into it in MLB 24, have a fresh start, have a new year. I'm looking forward to it. Videos are going to be back like normal. Streams are going to be back. TikTok, shorts, I'm going to be doing it all. So I hope you guys are ready for another good year of content. I can't wait to get it started. Thank you guys for all the love this year. And one final time, goodbye MLB The Show 23.